Oh, Jeff, at least Charles said everything else about text, isn't it?
Yes.
Great. Okay. I will call to order the August 10th, 2026 meeting of the Bethlehem Public Library Board of Trustees meeting. Why don't we go, before we do public participation, why don't we go around and introduce ourselves? Start with you, Jeff.
Sure. Jeff Patrick, Library Director.
Sarah Patterson, Board Vice President.
Jill Adams, trustee. Gail Sacco, I guess now UHLS representative.
Katie McNamara, trustee. Hi, Caroline Brancatella, president. And Laura DeBetta and Mark Kissinger are not able to be here this evening. Before we have public participation, we're going to have Sarah, our vice president, read the statement that we read before every session of public participation.
Beginning and ending each library board meeting with public participation is an opportunity for community members to express their thoughts on library operations to the board. Because the purpose of the monthly meeting is to conduct board business, it is not a time for back and forth debate with members of the board. If specific questions are presented during public participation and the relevant information is readily available, the board will make an effort to address the question in the course of the meeting. Otherwise, community members may follow up on any questions by directly contacting the library director or the board via email, or speaking to them after the meeting. We will advertise organized opportunities to speak directly with board members. A reminder that all library policies apply at board meetings, including the patron conduct policy and the press policy.
Do we have any public participation in the room? Seeing none. Do we have any online?
I do.
We do.
Yes. So this is from Robert McDonald. Comments on the recording policy proposed for adoption at the August 10th meeting. There's much to like in the draft policy, especially allowing photographers to discuss proposed activities with the director to gain approval. The essence of the policy is that the library reserves the right to refuse recording that negatively impacts safety, patron privacy, employee work conditions, or routine library operations. This is repeated in the protocol section, which allows individuals who wish to record in the library without prior approval to do so, provided they don't have indicated negative impacts. This is an excellent statement of the goal of the library. This is an excellent statement of the goal the library wishes to achieve, but leaves unclear what recording is actually allowed or prohibited. For instance, can a patron take a photo of a book stack aisle showing only the shelves and books but no patrons? Can a photographer take a photo of another patron, perhaps a friend or a relative, such as a parent photographing their child, after obtaining their permission? Both seem to be allowable since they do not violate the policy statement, no negative impact on patron privacy, safety, etc. But the proposed posted notice, Appendix 2, states that recording patrons or patron services areas is forbidden. That is the actual policy, and seemingly no photography is allowed in the library, and both examples above violate that policy. In short, policy statement should be amended to be more specific. You can say no photography of patrons is permitted in the public service areas of the library, or perhaps no recording of patrons is permitted, which produces identifiable images without prior permission of those patrons. Whatever policy you desire should be clearly stated so that the ambiguity implicit in the present draft is resolved.
Thank you. And just a point of clarity on that, the policy that we will be reviewing tonight is not up for vote yet. It is still under discussion. Okay. Committee appointments.
It's not.
So leftover. Okay. It's like I thought we did that. Okay. Review of the previous meeting minutes. Does anyone have any comments or questions on the July meeting minutes?
Sorry, there's a lot of windows. I apologize.
No one has any questions or concerns? Would anyone like to make a motion?
I move to accept the minutes.
Jill, second.
I'll second.
Sarah, all those in favor? The motion passes. We have Sherry virtually today. for our financial report. Hi, Sherry.
Hi, everyone. Sorry I can't be there in person, but I'm going on vacation tomorrow. I'm not sorry about that.
We are
Um,
happy for you, Sherry.
Thank you. Included in the board packet is the treasurer's report as usual. 1 month into the new fiscal year, there's obviously not a lot of activity other than contractually obligated expenses. I would say expenses are pretty much on par with last year at this time. Although there were a few July bills that were paid last year in July, but this year we didn't receive them till August. So we'll be catching up in August. I do want to mention that the auditors will be at the library the week of September 8th to finish up their field work. We expect to have audited financial statements for review by the Finance Committee towards the end of October, probably the third week of October. And then we will present the financial statements to the board for approval at the November board meeting. That's just what's coming up. Just getting back to the financial report, I don't know if anybody has any questions about anything. I don't know, Jeff, if you want to scroll up a little bit and you can look at it. Our cash position is coming down a little bit because we're withdrawing funds to pay for operations, and we will not receive our tax revenue until usually the end of September or early October. Yeah, so obviously you can see we don't have much revenue yet, but we're continuing to incur expenses.
And just a reminder to the public that that fund balance number, which looks very healthy right now, and that is what Sherry just referenced. That is what we are drawing down from for operations until we receive tax revenue in September. So that is not money we can allocate otherwise. That is money that we need to keep the library going.
That's right. That's right.
Have any questions or concerns regarding the financial report?
So I'm happy to answer any questions if anybody has any.
Nothing stood out to me, Sherry. Nothing that you think deserves to be highlighted?
No, not at this time.
Okay, would anyone like to make a motion? Gail, second?
I'll second.
All those in favor? The financial report is approved.
Have a nice vacation.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sherry. Jeff, the personnel report.
It's gonna be the easiest personnel report.
Love easy personnel reports.
No actions requested, just, that's it, just no,
Okay,
nothing to say.
so we do not need to make a motion to pass anything because nothing is requested. Okay, moving on
Steady as she goes.
to your director's report.
Okay, I am pleased to stop talking about some aspect of the HVAC system. In that the boiler project has been officially completed and signed off at the Department of Labor. So it is done. It is a boiler. It is working. In the summer, it does its dehumidification part of its job, and in the winter, it does its heating part of the job. But right now, it's cranking along at its low modulated level and working right along. And we're very pleased with how it's working. So we will obviously get a better test of it as we get colder. But right now, everything looks good. We're very happy. All the punch list items have been checked off. So I'm just happy to have a big check on that project.
That's our week.
That's good. At the same time, to keep everything even Steven, there are 2 fan motor bearings that have begun to fail. There's a proposal later on in the meeting to replace both of those motors with total. So we don't just replace the bearings. When the bearings go on the fan motor, that is what makes the air move into the library or in different parts of the library. So we need those new fans, and we are doing everything we can to not need a crane, because that's the next thing. Crane hours are the most expensive part of the project. So we'll be using lift like a cherry picker and rolling with a roof cart across the top and putting down a walkway to protect the roof as they bring it over and then install those have to build a new gantry inside there to get the motors in because they're extremely heavy, about 400 pounds each. They're too heavy for a single person's outfit. So that's later on in the meeting, but we can't escape HVAC. HVAC continues to always be there. Some good prep work. We'll talk later about 59 Borthwick. We've got an update later, but that just continues on a pace. And then I would feel remiss if I did not mention that we have ordered an additional concrete planter for the plaza. It's about 3/4 the size of the one that's out sort of in the middle of the circle, right in the middle of the plaza. So it can be moved with Scoopy, the Bobcat. The other one is right on the edge of what the machine can move. Like it is very close. So we ordered one that's just slightly smaller that we can move if we have to, but will prevent folks from driving their vehicles up onto the plaza, which makes for angry directors. So that will just prevent and create a safe space inside that zone where it's just evident as day. I would have thought the red curves would have been enough of evidence to not drive up on the plaza, but there you go. It's happened twice now, so we'll make sure that doesn't happen. Lots of great stuff going on. We do just I'd like to mention some of these things we mentioned about once a year about the book bundles, which is a service that started during the pandemic and continues to pace. It is not a huge business, but this is a service where patrons can write to the librarians and say, hey, I kind of like to read in this area. Will you select some books for me? And I'll come in and pick them up. And they pick up, they get 10 items or 10 books or 10 items together for the patrons, and the patrons can come in and check those out. And then just sort of surprise me, and then a good chance for the librarians to use the Reader's Advisory. So it's not a service that everybody knows about. It was extremely popular during the pandemic, but it continues. So I like to give it a little bit of airtime here and talk about it just a little bit to remind everybody.
Great thing for going on vacation, trying to figure out.
Yeah, because frequently, people fall into ruts in their reading, and this can help expand out of that rut.
That's great.
So lots of great America 250 programming from this past month and more on the way. Obviously, we had the Haudenosaunee in the American Revolution, just a different look at the 250th anniversary. That program was well attended. We had the Women of Scotland Mansion and more on the way as we go into the fall, up to and including the Friends bus trip to Fort Ticonderoga in October. That will take place on the day of the battle for Ticonderoga. So that'll be interesting. They're doing a big celebration up there, so that'll be worth doing. You see that notice going out shortly. Lots of other great programs. I always like to include pictures in here. I didn't include the descriptions of the conversation clubs. I figured they're in here every month, just so you know them. Those continue on with a steady attendance at both of those programs. All of our regular story times, book clubs, Dungeons and Dragons, some good evenings on the green. Unfortunately, only one was able to be held outside this year. That's below our average. We usually get it's about half and half because it is July and it is a month of thunderstorms. But we only got one outside this year, and we left ourselves both. We could bring it inside on that same night or kick it to the next night. So we had to use all our tricks to get even one outside because it's been a pretty rainy July. So it does impact the attendance. When you have to bring them into the community room, it is not as much fun. I think everybody would agree. And but still a good time. The bands come, and the bands prefer to be outside too. Sometimes I think they would even risk it a little bit further, but there it goes. Pinch pots, clay tablets, and lots of continue on with our Tech Tuesdays. Our recorded author talks. We had Karen Slaughter, was a pretty big author, and a bunch of other both pre-recorded sessions. We had Matt Dinneman, who is the Dungeon Crawler Carl. We got a little press in the Times Union for that one. Recorded author talk, and that's all part of our virtual in the youth services side, this is the Super Bowl absolute big time of the year for the youth services department. It's summer reading program. So everything is on the theme of this year. So we have lots of dinosaur stuff this month, which is great. Lots of programs, displays out there, dinosaur themed displays, lots of dance parties, really high attendance numbers. just across the board, great yoga classes, makers, and then lots of cute little creations from the kids, the Paw Patrol class, the powder paint party. I don't know if you saw this on Facebook, but our librarian Shannon got dressed up in a dinosaur costume, and then the teens all went outside and played tag with the paint powder. So a great time was had by everybody out on the plaza that day or the green. Lots of other great programs. Dinosaur.
What's the registration?
Hmm?
What's the really much registration?
It's up this year. I'll have those numbers next month, but we're up over last year. I'm not that Chris, right? I'm not saying anything incorrect, Chris. The numbers, I think, I was talking to Dan, the numbers are
For some of the sections.
Yeah. Makes me happy too. So anytime there's reptiles or farm animals or birds, big time classes. So we did 2 sessions of that. We had 193 people in total across those 2 sessions. And that's, you know, that's how we get around the size of the community room. So we packed always the first session is completely packed, second session a little less packed, but it was nearly packed there. So everybody likes focuses.
Question about the conversation clubs.
Yes.
We had any communication with middle school and high school saying like you could come practice your French and Spanish?
Interesting. I think we reached out when we were setting up, there was some fact-finding meetings that the librarian held as he was beginning that session, but maybe not lately. It's a good idea to circle back on
As
that.
the fall comes around, and I don't imagine like a single middle school student would come, but maybe them could come and
Yeah.
talk with whoever else shows up.
Great.
Cooking class.
Hmm?
I come to a French cooking class.
There you go. Do it all in French.
So the scavenger hunt was really great, and the kids were all working together in the children's section, and it was really fun.
Fantastic.
And cute for them to all be collaborating, trying to find the things, so excellent.
And they did one there. There was a scavenger hunt at the farmers market that they did. And then, so it switched over from July, and there's another one in August. So just keep it a little fresh for everybody. So let's talk a little bit about checkouts. We had a good year. This month in July, which again, July or August would typically be our highest circulating month. We were just shy of the 60,000 checkouts, which is sort of my pre-pandemic really good month, but we were just 300 short. So we haven't seen that number since the pandemic, but that's the closest we've come. So I'm very happy about that. We had a 1.7% increase over the previous year. So that is good. The interesting part is that physical circulation declined modestly, and that increase is all on the back of the digital collections, right? So that continues to show that sort of steady switch in use. That said, door count was up. So even though physical use of the collection is down a little bit, door count, whatever people are doing here in the library, that's not necessarily driven by the collection. And it's an interesting set of trends, which will continue to. And then again, just this long trend switch to growth of audiobooks in both physical formats and digital formats. So both of those things together continue to see good increases, which I think is interesting. So door count and wireless internet use were up over the last July. So that's great. So we had a drop in our normal sort of pattern of weeding out our registered borrowers. If people are not active borrowers, then they will drop off. That said, our number of active patrons is actually up. So the number of people who are using the library continues fairly steadily and continues to be even higher than it was before the pandemic. So that's an interesting thing.
Is it possible, this is just a brainstorm idea.
Yeah.
To put a 3-question survey out on the tables and have a pop-up on the in-house computers that say, what brought you here,
Yes.
find a book, to use a room, to have a meeting, maybe for like really quick and dirty to find out how the building is used, but have it like an in-your-face, not on a social media and out, but
Right.
on the tables and paper. And if they go onto a the computer catalog in the library, because that's what we would be interested in, to have a quick pop-up before you go on. Can you answer these 3 questions?
I'll see about the pop-up. It's a great idea, and we've been actively discussing that. So I like a quick, it doesn't have to be a scientific survey, but just a way to judge that, and I like that.
And maybe are you an adult, a teen, or a kid,
Something.
maybe just not a big part of their demographics, but are you an adult, are you a teenager, are you an elementary schooler, or however you want to say it.
Great. Yeah, that's not stretch at all. So I like that idea.
Well, that would help as we proceed with planning, or using the building.
You got it.
Well, maybe not, but it's an idea.
No, I think I always like more information. So, and then I'm just gonna mention the custom design library cards. Are we out of the window, Phil?
Not yet.
Not quite yet, but soon the window for these 2 cards is gonna close, the 250th card and the little dino cards. We issued 55 of the semi-quincentennial cards and 23 of the summer read cards. So we're happy about that. Outreach was good. I do like the increased partnership that we have with the Del Mar Farmers Market. I'm pleased about that. They reached out at the beginning of the year, requesting that we work with them a little bit more. So we're doing some story times there. Alex was the librarian who did that, had lots of good interactions. There, 24 kids and caretakers attended the story time, which is great. Just bring that out to the community there, and then lots of great interactions as always there. We did send a librarian down to the state library to do a story time down there, which they asked us to participate in. We had never done that before, and we were happy to participate with them. A number of local area libraries who had a guest library story time down at the state library, so the state museum, which is always plenty of our folks go down there and visit during the summer. And then Thursdays in the parks. And that's that for outreach this month. And then just to talk about working with friends in preparation of their Fort Ticonderoga. Just continuing ed stuff. So all good, great work on behalf of the librarians. Again, so many people in the library. It's summer, it's a fun time, lots of programs. We have Silent Wings coming up shortly. So that's, we got Raptors, people love Raptors coming up. So pay attention to your footnotes for that. And then this month, again, we saw growth in circulation up 1.7%, as I stated earlier. And then the physical use of the library, we had a 20,000 month, which not too long ago, I remember, for those of you who were here, remember talking about it. I wish we could get back to a 20,000 month. We're there pretty regularly now, and certainly this month was one of them. So increases there, an increase in wireless use again, which are our indicators of physical presence in the library. Those numbers are all up. So good stuff.
Just a reminder to everyone for our electronic materials, which everyone is using quite a bit. I know that a lot of people have spoken to me about wait times for those. There's a number of issues that go into that, but a very easy thing that everyone can do is that if you finish your book, click the button that says return early. Or if you have a whole bunch of holds coming in at one time, suspend your hold. That way you don't get the book, but you also don't lose your place in line. So there's some easy ways to manage that. I'm trying to recommend everyone who talks to me about the wait times.
Yeah, it's a thing. There's some changes coming to Overdrive which make that consortial borrowing between Upper Hudson and Southern Adirondack Library System, Mid Hudson and Mohawk Valley even easier and a little closer to seamless. So hopefully people won't have to go through the rigmarole of adding those other library systems to their Libby account. They will just come part and parcel. Search it. Obviously go to our system first and then search the other systems in case that item happens to be else. And Hoopla's always there, and those are nice. No waiting at the Hoopla. So
Thank you, Jeff.
you bet.
I know that you're only a month into this role, Gail, but I'm guessing you have not been to a UHLS meeting yet?
No, but I have a notebook now.
Okay. That looks
and I
inclusive.
the next meeting is not until September.
Okay,
So,
great. We look forward to your report then. Jill, anything from friends?
No, there hasn't been a meeting since last, so they're meeting next.
Hello,
week.
all of our friends.
Yeah, hello, friends.
Okay. Then I think that we are on to new business. And the first issue that we have today is our long range planning committee update. And I want to thank everyone on the long range planning committee, Gail and Mark and Laura, and Jeff, so a lot of work has gone into putting a document together. What we have tonight is we are putting, so just to back up, our previous long range plan expired or expires. It is expired.
Well, we said.
I'm sorry, we extended it for a year.
Yes.
And we are in the process of drafting a new one, and we have to adopt that by the end of this year. So we are going to present it to the board in 2 phases. Is that this first phase is a document that was put together based on board input of ideas and the committee of basically what is we are stating as our long range plan as a narrative. A mission, a vision statement, and several subject areas that we hope to address. So we're putting this to the board to review tonight. And then the second part of this is going to be action items that correspond to each, can you scroll down, Jeff?
Yes.
To each of these strategic areas. So that, for example, for inclusion, we have, let's say, 2 to 3 specific things that we would like to achieve in the next 3 years. So we will be presenting those to the board, probably 1 or 2 subject areas a meeting until November. And then we can hopefully pass the second part of this. But I think that we are looking, am I correct that we think we're looking for this for a vote tonight? But this is the first, like I said, the narrative of our long range plan. This has been signed off on by the committee. Does anyone have any comments or questions or edits?
I just wanted to share that the model for this kind of I did a little research on the model for this kind of structure comes from the Massachusetts Library Association, which had a lot of sample long-range plans, which were more abbreviated and in this kind of format. So we didn't make this up. We didn't go like helter-skelter. We made up the content, but we didn't make up the structure of how it should look. It's an accepted structure for long-range plans.
Exactly, Gail. The first step for the committee was, I think all of us, prior to our first meeting, as we read a number of other long-range plans from libraries, I think throughout, I would say the Northeast, both similarly situated libraries and bigger and smaller libraries. And the trend seems to be more concise than not. So the goal was to keep this to a one page or slightly more than 1 page document, like I said, with the action items to come.
I was glad to see that we're both looking to make sure that this building becomes a 3rd place, since that's something I talked about even when I was running for library board, so that we keep people coming in and interacting with their neighbors and all that good, very crunchy stuff. But I'm equally glad to see a good section about outreach, people who don't easily get to the building, because very Delmar centric and heard occasional concerns about that. So I'm glad to see, and I was glad to see in your director's report too, you know, we're at the museum, we're at the farmer's market, we're here, we're there, we can extend to the schools in certain ways. So those are 2 things that both are community oriented, but one's here and one's reaching out. So very happy to see those included and highlighted and upfront.
So I should say where we are on this is that, like I said, we have this portion of the document here for the board tonight. And then we have drafted the action items. That doesn't mean that if board members have further ideas of action items based on these strategic areas, please send them to us. But right now we're at a phase where we have a draft document that will then go to Jeff and the staff for review. because the action items are only as good as they are feasible. So the staff will go through that with Jeff, obviously incorporate their ideas, their view of the library, but can also provide us that important operational knowledge of, can this be done as it is written? Do we need to make an adjustment, or can we be even more ambitious in certain things? Should we be more ambitious in certain things? But I suspect it's going to be a little bit more reeling back toward reality. So does anyone else have any other questions, concerns on this document before us?
The only other thing is we were talking about 3 years as opposed to 5 years, correct?
Correct.
Okay,
Yes.
so this would be a 3-year plan as opposed to a 5-year plan.
Yes.
And another major difference between this and the last plan was, in the last plan, we knew we were headed into a building project, so we kind of separated out the sort of services plan from the building plan. And this, most long-range plans don't separate them, and this doesn't separate them. It's, those two things are tied inextricably. So some of the goals will be more physical plant-based, and some of them will be services-based, but they'll all be in there. And it doesn't. We created an artificial separation just because the work had to head down two different paths, but we're not in that situation right now, and we're gonna keep all that stuff together. So
Okay, then, and even though Laura and Mark are not here to vote on this tonight, they were both on the long range planning committee, so they have, although they're not voting, they have signed off on this document. Okay, if there's no other questions or discussion, would anyone like to make a motion to approve this first half of the long range plan for 2027 through 2030? That's strange to say.
I can make a motion to approve this first half of the long range plan.
Katie,
I'll second.
Jill, all those in favor? The motion passes. Thank you, everyone. And again, thanks to the committee that did a lot of great work. Okay, so the second prong of our long range plan discussion tonight is that amidst the discussion of what our long range goals and plans are, I think no one will be surprised to know that a great deal of those plans include both building maintenance and things that we would like that require things to happen to the building for us to enact plans, and just the simple fact that the building still needs some things. So this is a good juncture to bring up the idea of whether, in order to enact what we would like to see the library be in the next few years, what we'd like to see the building be in the next few years, another bond proposal. So we have some limited feedback from the community, and we should say that the board has learned over the last few years that feedback from the community is important in terms of surveys and the information that we get, but we also have to be aware that it is not always entirely representative of the community. It is a representative of the individuals that choose to give us feedback. But working with the feedback that we do have, which comes from surveys, in particular an exit survey from our last bond vote, is that the ceiling, meaning the very highest amount that the public would want us to go or accept us going on another bond, would be $10 million. While that sounds like a lot, it is actually, in terms of building maintenance and construction, fairly modest. But that is likely what we're looking at. So we're looking to kick off that discussion of, one, whether we would want to pursue another bond, and two, what that bond, what projects that bond would be for, and then the timing of all of that. But I think the first step is to determine where the board's temperature is about the bond. I will say that I personally am in favor of discussing another bond to maintain and improve the library building, but also to achieve the library's overall goals. I'm very mindful of that $10 million amount or lower, but I am in favor of it. I will also say that I spoke to our two other board members who are not here tonight, and I have their permission to say that they are also in favor of a discussion of another bond. no particulars to any of that, but in favor of a discussion. So I don't know if we want to go around the room or if we just want to speak. What I'm really just trying, I think what we're trying to suss out is if anyone has any significant objections to the discussion of another bond.
I'm in favor of discussion.
I am also in favor of discussion.
And I do want to also point out that although it's $10 million, there's a lot of work that was done by our previous architects and engineers that are still applicable and probably worth a good chunk of money towards whatever it is we decide to do. But yes, I am in favor of it.
That's an excellent point, Gail. First, a point of clarity, when I say $2 million, that's just one, that does not mean that there will automatically be another bond. We are saying we will discuss it. And two, that does not mean that it will be $10 million. What we're saying is that the feedback we've received, we acknowledge that what we have heard is that $10 million would be the ceiling. But Gail makes an excellent point that another bond would be, I think, easier operationally, logistically, than the first one, because a lot of the work has been done. We know a lot more about the building now. We have a lot of plans to work with. So this would be a much smoother, quicker, I would say, more efficient process.
I'll just jump into, I'm very open to that discussion. So great support.
Great. Okay. Then I think the last thing, then we will start putting that discussion on the board agenda for the foreseeable future as we try to decide which direction we should head. I think the last part of the discussion on that tonight is that, you know, certain things have come up as part of the long range planning committee, but does anyone have any initial ideas about what we would want to shape that bond around? I will say the two that come up the most often are, I think, connected, which is improvements or expansion of the children's area and a teen area for the building. The other thing that comes up often is expanding space overall, in particular study rooms, as those get a lot of use. Is there anything else that anyone wants to kind of put on a list, a very, very preliminary list of what might shape that bond?
We have to take a look at the bricks and mortar, see if they need to be pointed or improved, or the insulation needs to be changed. I mean, basic structural stuff.
So let's say significant maintenance items.
That's fine. I just, the stuff that's not fun or cozy.
I feel like the other thing that was one of the initial top requests, and I feel like still is easier access to the interior of the building.
So entrances.
Yeah, basically that there's such a long walk outside, and then even when you get inside, it's an additional long walk, and there's some way to alleviate that.
So really entrances or access issues. Okay. I think that is that list is fairly consistent. I don't think that I can always be surprised, but we will focus our discussion around that list, around anything else that the board has to mention, and stay tuned, everyone. We'll continue this discussion at the next meeting and after that. Okay. On the note of bricks and mortar and significant maintenance issues for the building, Jeff, tell us about our unit motor replacement.
So replacements for C unit, D unit. C unit is C unit is the one that's above our head here in this part of the building, and D unit's back on the other side of the building. And we need 2 new motors because the bearing. And this is actually something you can, if you go outside on the sort of towards the 59 World, you may hear a high-pitched sound coming from one of the rooftop units, and that's what our maintenance staff was like, hey, this is a sound, a change in the normal behavior of the unit. And I still think of them as the new units, but of course 2018 was not yesterday. And so the bearings on that hold the fan motor just wear out. And again, this is a logistically difficult. It doesn't seem like it would be difficult, but there really isn't access this side of the building from a place that you can get to easily, right? It's anyway, they're gonna go through a little bit of gymnastics to make sure we don't need a crane and can just use a cherry picker to get them up on the roof rather than craning them in, because, and I think they would have recommended a crane if the crane could have craned the motor right into the rooftop unit, but it can't. It has to set it down and then it has to be picked up again and then sort of shuffled into the unit itself. So if this was under my limit, I would already have signed it. This is a thing that needs to happen. So you're getting my, I need this. I don't want to be doing this in the middle of the winter when getting something up on the roof is going to be impossible. The parts are reasonably available, but we're going to get further and further into the hall, as hot as we all are. Fall is right around the corner. And I don't want to get into the winter and rooftop units working bad enough to be hot in the summer, but to be cold in the winter when the rooftop unit's not working is not a good thing. So
As the sole member of the building committee here, I had a brief conversation with Jeff. Is there an A and a B also?
there's four of the, if I brought up Google Earth, you can see that there's four sort of big rectangular boxes that are up on the roof. You can see a few of them from the parking lot.
Do we know that A and B are in good condition?
A and B, well, the fan motor bearings on A and B are in good condition.
Okay,
So
so this is essentially getting new, I said, for $17,000, why aren't we buying new ones?
Yeah.
And this is- Jeff said this is basically a it's basically new, they're replacing the whole inside. So I assume that if they go up and find a rusted case on the outside, that'll get added into it, but they're replacing basically the entire guts.
well, okay,
Or most
I
of
don't want to go
it.
there.
That's what I understood you to say.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So if I, this is not the heating part, the combustion part. It is not the compressor part that does the actual cooling, but the fan that does the blowing. This is the motor that controls the fan that does the, when you're in this room and you feel some air, not tonight, but on lots of other nights, you feel air moving around the room. That's the fan motor.
Okay.
And that's the piece of this. It's a module that can be popped out and replaced. That's the piece that needs to.
And then the other thing we talked about was we have a rubber roof, which is not new, which scares me a little bit because the parts that they're moving on is very heavy.
Yep.
So Jeff said they're gonna put boards down to transport it. Maybe this is more information that you need. This concerns me. But he's also going to double check with Train that if there's any damage to our roofing, that Train knows that they're responsible for the repair of that. Because a rubber roof is rubber.
And they're using something called a roof cart. So
Yeah, so it all should be fine. This is me just being like, nervous to make sure that they know that we're not gonna pay if the roof is damaged. And lots of times when roofs like that are damaged, they can just patch them, so it doesn't necessarily mean a whole new roofing area. So I think it's gotta be done too. I'm not trying to-
Sorry.
I was just trying to put it into English.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
Then I will make a motion to approve the expense of replacing rooftop unit motor. Rooftop unit motor.
Just, yes.
I second it.
Okay.
All those in favor? The motion passes.
And I continue to fail in my goal to have a board meeting where we do not discuss the HVAC.
One of these days.
Trying to get there. Trying to get there.
Long-range plan, should we make that an action?
Every September, every year, do not discuss the HVAC.
Continuing education.
Okay, I have this for you as the hot off the presses, so paper. So what you have in front of you is there's two conferences that are coming over the conference registration for right now. For NILA, under our policy, because it doesn't involve hotels or a major expense. Planes or anything like that, I can usually authorize NILA to go, not as Saratoga Springs this year, but because it is a large expense, we tend to try to send as many people as we can there and take advantage of the fact that it's in the backyard. I'm proposing to spend $27.80 as a maximum to send folks to the NILA conference. I don't have the staff names down here because we're still looking at the desk schedule. As much as I want to send everybody that I can, I do have to have some people in the building to staff the building, but they're not. At the same time, there is the National Library Marketing Conference, which is in St. Louis. I received a proposal from Kristen to go to that, and I'm proposing that we accept that as well. So those two conference expenses, one for the NILA conference, one for the marketing conference. So we can get everybody registered under the early bird registration for both of these, so we keep the conference registration.
How is the travel to St. Louis so inexpensive? This seems like this does not seem like an adequate amount of money to me for you to go.
When I put the proposal together, that was the round trip flight on Southwest. I guess not a lot of people want to go to St. Louis. And I did go in 2018, and so the Uber estimate from the airport to the conference center is about the same as that. I mean, there may be some increases, but
Would anyone object to like making it even $2,000 just in case something? Or will that happen anyway? If it raises, you'll come back and
If you want
say,
to put a do not exceed on there, it's fine with me. We can do that very easily. This is,
I agree. I just am looking at 420 for an airplane flight and thinking. Maybe, I'm not saying, I'm
Well,
not saying it's
and I
not
think
gonna happen.
$100 for meals and incidentals covers one meal.
well, actually, on that one, the conference provides breakfast and lunch.
Okay, so.
Yeah, but we're
How many
happy,
nights?
can we just, would it be okay to up it to like 2,000 even? Would anyone want to?
Oh, yeah, so it would be 3 nights. The conference is 2 full days, but in order to be there in time and then to be able to stay.
Yes, we'll just, I think I do not exceed.
Yeah, do not exceed, yeah.
anyway, and this is our total, our budget for trying to be reasonably lean this year on our expenses. Our budget for continuing education this year is $8,000. We took that down a little bit to $8,000, but we don't have any other big national conferences. We don't support folks going to the ALA National Conference, and the Public Library Association Conference was last year, so we do not have it this year in this year's budget year. So we will use the balance of that will be focused mostly on Staff Development Day, bringing a speaker for Staff Development Day, but I think we're going to be well inside the budget for continuing education.
So you need a motion, Jeff?
I do, just because of the total expense of the NILA conference, it's big enough. It's unclear on the policy. I just wanted to.
I move that we approve these expenses to send our staff out to learn stuff.
Thank you.
I second.
Great. All those in favor? Passes.
Thank you, miss. I really appreciate it. I know the staff.
Thank you. Does anyone have any other new business? Okay, great. We will move on to old business. Jeff? Do we have a boiler project update, or do we think?
Final update, just saying, we're
Final
done.
update.
I said, I buried the lead in my director's report, but
Okay.
we're done. We're signed off. Department of Labor officially signed off there, so finished, and we didn't get a grant for it, so I don't even have to go back to state and fight with them to close out the project. It's just a finished project.
Congrats, everyone. That was just a reminder, that was number 1 on our list for building maintenance, and it's done.
Yeah, I
And
like
it
it.
came in on budget or below budget or?
Below budget. Yeah, there were the asbestos impact of the roof was, they were clever about how they dealt with that, and so the expense of that was lower.
That's
than
great.
expected. It could have been.
Congratulations.
So that's cool.
Okay, and for our second building maintenance issue, tell us what's going on with 59 North.
Lots more there. So at the meeting with some town reps tomorrow, they're gonna come over, and do a quick inspection of the house. The building permit has been applied for by our contractor, and this is just in response to that, and we should have our, I don't anticipate any issues with the building permit. As soon as we have it, we can then really begin to move forward. with the demolition. We have signed off on the removal of the electricity and the gas. Those services have to be terminated. I know we are going to be adding back in electrical service. That takes place as a separate work order. The house itself has to be turned off. So that's going to all happen imminently. Those work orders, that has to take place through National Grid. So their timing is their timing. Pretty soon, there's going to be no electrical or gas over there. In addition, the next thing that would happen after that is the abatement of mostly the siding, which is the major asbestos problem with that house. There is a little bit of regular basement pipe asbestos, but that will get abated too. But that's a really very minor compared to the sort of square footage of the amount of siding on the house. When that happens, there's been a tentative reach out from Del Mar Fire that they would like to do entry and smoke training on a building. They don't get a lot of opportunities to have a building that they can do training on and be destructive about their training. So and entry training is destructive. So talk to the contractor, and he said once the if all of the electrical service and gas service is turned off, the abatement's done, fine, happy to coordinate with them. And I'll work with the chief and see if they can get that worked into the schedule.
It's so great. It's like another educational opportunity that the library provides.
No, it's really, thank you. And it really is. And when the 51 and 53 were demolished years ago, the same thing happened there. And again, it's just a super rare opportunity for them to get in and, cut into a house the way they would if there was a fire. If life safety was an issue, you don't care about the house. You get in there and you rescue the folks. So I was happy to be able to talk about that. Again, we don't have any formal plans on that, but I was happy to entertain that and continue to do so. And that's it. The bricks are gone. Sorry.
Go ahead.
The bricks are gone from behind the house. So all the paper bricks are gone off to their final home. As well as a bunch of foundation plantings have been removed in preparation to really allow. The next thing that will happen is after the town is that our environmental asbestos monitoring company will come in, establish a baseline for the house, and then that allows them to do their testing pre and post abatement to make sure that we're being abated in the way that we need them to meet state regulations. So there's a lot of steps, but it's nice for me to have a project that's moving along so quickly. I just had to expect that building permit to not be much of an issue. It should become short.
Are we having any communication plans for the public about?
We will, yes.
Yes.
We'd like
Is there
to,
anything planned yet? No.
not yet. We once we lock down some dates and we have a better sense of that and vacations are done, I anticipate that we'll call a meeting of the communications committee probably toward the end of August, likely almost certainly before our next board meeting.
Okay.
It's without the abatement, things will start to look substantially different. We don't need a building permit to work. We don't need the demolition building permit to work on the abatement. So it needs to be abated no matter what, right? So those abatements and that's when the public would start to see some significant changes. I mean, having the bricks out from behind the house, lots of people are like, oh, there's bricks behind the house. I'm like, how do you not see these enormous piles of bricks? But they're gone, which is nice. For me, it's like a load of bricks off my shoulders. And but as the abatement starts is when people will really start to see some action over there. So I think that's exactly what we will be doing. But that's where we are. That's everything that I know. I'll keep you all up to date, but I think this is going to be relatively rapidly moving. So the next thing we'll be looking for is the information on the permit.
Okay. Jeff.
Yeah.
Okay, next is a review of, not a vote tonight, on our reporting policy, which Sarah has been working very diligently on and has worked quite a bit with our attorney. So I will hand it over to her to discuss kind of what
we're at.
the challenges are to this policy.
So I think we did look at a version of the policy last time, and that was one that I had taken the policy we had and had tried to rewrite it. And previously we were kind of assuming, or our understanding was, is that we really couldn't prevent people too much from filming inside the library. But then Jeff and I met with the lawyer and she was like, oh, no, that's not true at all. You can, you just need to have a very solid policy and you need to post information about what that is so people know. And then she provided us with like a template of what she would recommend. And so for this version of the policy, I started from her template. So it's kind of completely new from what we have had in the past. And I just used her template and worked it a little bit to make it more pertinent to us. That's
So something to think about as we look at this, and we discussed this at the agenda meeting, is that while we might be, as a library, allowed to prohibit certain kinds of recording and regulate certain kinds of recording, can we operationally do that? And that's an important question in terms of the policy, because a policy is really only, a lot of people heard me say this, a policy is really only as good as you can enforce it. So we have to think about, can we do this? We don't want to create a policy saying something that we can't do, or even worse, maybe something that we couldn't do consistently. So as we review this, we need to look at the operational aspect of this. Can we do it? Can the staff effectively do it? And can we make sure that we are not putting ourselves in a position where we are applying the policy one way to one inadvertently applying the policy one way to one patron and another way to another patron. An example of that being, okay, we say you cannot record in the library, but we only see person A recording, the staff only sees person A recording, but doesn't see person B recording. Person A has the consequence of recording, but person B doesn't. That creates all sorts of issues. So something to think about.
From my perspective, the policy, so the other policy that we had was, I think, by any stretch of the imagination, too permissive. So I think the policy that existed far too permissive, and there's some obligations that we have, as the lawyer explained to me, which was I was happy to learn. We have obligations to protect privacy in this realm, not just in sort of circulation records and all the other areas. So we see. Take that one as, and some libraries have a policy like the one we had, and certainly we were one of those libraries. Take that on one end and this current policy as the other end. So this is like a max control of recording in the library. Okay. And then I think our discussion that we need to have is where and how is this where we want to be? I think probably having our lawyer weigh in on, I think it's legal. I believe her when she tells me about what the library can restrict. And I think for me, there's a pinch point in technology, which is streaming is so ubiquitous. Streaming, recording, and pictures are so very ubiquitous that I think we just need to make sure that we're being clear-eyed and clear-headed about what we mean by, there's a lot of people in the library that are doing Zoom calls, like frequently, but that's streaming with the main part of the library in the background, and that would be prohibited under this policy now. And I think we have to be careful about leaving too much discretion about what is good recording and bad recording. That's where we get ourselves into trouble. So that's why we're here. We presented this, and I think we continue to talk about it. I think I have some more questions for the attorney that I want to ask, just for some clarifications. And then, as we talk about it as a staff about, what's realistic about. I don't even have to get to like the meta classes kind of recording. We don't have to go that far. We have, someone's taking a video of their grandchild playing in a cool truck over in the children's room. That would not be allowed under the policy. Saying, so finding a way to allow what we think is reasonable recording while protecting patron privacy is, I think, the big challenge of any policy like this.
So a piece of that is what's on the walls. So let's take that grandmother who's taking a picture of her child on whatever. Child, me taking a picture of Sadie or
Right.
Joshua on whatever, but in the background is another child whose
Correct.
parents are in the middle of a vicious divorce and custody fight. So, or the same thing, you know, for a children's program, the Story Hour Room needs to have something that says, you know, we're video recording an announcement. If you don't want to be part of it, you should, you should. No,
Right.
so I'm just saying, it's not just what's written, it's also what's communicated.
Yes,
Well, and that is definitely part of what the lawyer said too, and that's like in one of the appendix, there's a draft idea for a statement that would need to be like posted prominently so that people can read it and know that this is what it is ahead of time, so nobody's getting called out as like a surprise.
I'm even thinking of post, you know, like with a picture of an iPhone or a picture of it and saying like can do, can't do, like so as I'm reading this, I'm trying to think like, how could we communicate that? Single sheet of paper with pictograms saying this is okay, this isn't okay, or these things aren't okay unless you make sure that no one else, you know, I don't know, but it's not easy. The
No.
more I thought about it that way, I was like, oh, God.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, and I agree with Jeff. I mean, I think it's so ubiquitous, the way we use our phones, the way, we're gonna have to be creative about some things. I think the streaming thing is important. I mean, I certainly have done work from setting carols in the library and done Zoom calls during that time.
I think, I mean, maybe, I don't know, is there a difference between, and I don't know how librarians, whatever, police this either, but to me, there's a difference between a Zoom call that is just happening and is not live in posterity and a Zoom call that is being recorded in one way, shape, or form. Because if it's just a Zoom between you and me, in many ways, that's like if we were sitting together in the library talking. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if it's being recorded and gonna be used again or could be found again, then that's something else.
AI is on a Zoom call, it's basically recording everything unless you shut it off. I also think your point about meta glasses, things like that, I know that I'm aware of that being an issue in other settings.
I keep hoping they're not gonna take off just like they didn't take off last time.
I don't know.
Fingers crossed that nobody wants this thing.
So I think the long and the short of it here is that we have another challenging policy to think about.
I was hoping this was gonna be an easy one. I really thought this was kind of medium.
I thought it was medium too, but it's deceptively difficult.
Yeah.
Both because we have obligations and because again, this is just so ubiquitous.
Well, so what is the feeling then that we want to go for something that is more specifically bullet pointed, like you can take pictures of your own children if no other patrons are in the back? Like, is that what we're looking for to make it more workable? Or where do we want to go from here? Because I hear the concerns, but I also feel like if we are going to have a policy at all, there's going to be some issues like this that just exist within it.
So I would say, I agree with you. I think that there has to be appendices that bullet things out. And I think to Jill's point and to Gail's point is that those appendices should be designed and maybe in such a way that those are also
informative to patrons.
yes, but there are also things that we can post on a wall. Or are part of the communications plan surrounding this.
All that speaks to your original point too is actually overseeing this. Like, I don't want staff to be having to yell at Gail for taking a picture of her grandchild, but I'm also sensitive to the same thing that you raised, so. Completely operationally, I think there's a need for some clarity.
Well, you know, we come into the library for summer reading club and this 7-year-old races all over the children's room. So if I was gonna take a video of her mom graduated of Bennington College with photography with tons of videos of these kids. I would be taking a video of her like here and there and here and there, because the point of it would be to show her parents how she loves the library and she's just looking for books all over the place. And that opens up a whole can of worms.
I mean, I kind of feel like this is, we were talking about, this is the opposite end of the spectrum, like, so we're basically, this policy is just saying, you just can't.
Yeah.
So we could opt to just be like, instead of trying to articulate every very specific interaction that we will never be able to adequately articulate, we can just stick with it. You can't, I'm sorry, like your kids are at the library, this is a place where there's lots of different copyright, privacy, whatever issues, you just can't take pictures here. Sorry.
I mean, it's not dissimilar from the meeting policy of. You parse it out, or you say, no, none.
Yeah.
Right.
And in the case where someone comes in with a service dog that unfortunately is aggressive towards a patron and someone takes a video, we can do something like that as an exception to the policy. If the policy is written so that the board, I don't know how you do it, but we could take exception to that, because sure enough, if there's an altercation in the library, or if Jeff's out there talking to the person who doesn't want to bring the argument, someone's gonna be out there saying, oh, this is a conflict, I'm taking a video to document it.
But it's absolutely, Sarah's correct, absolutely the recommendation of the attorney that the library take the strong stance on this of that. But I think if we do that, I think we accept that there might be books about it, so
I mean,
just.
obviously we'd have to ask the employees, but my personal opinion is if I was an employee, as hard as it would be to have to police it, I would rather just have the blanket, like, nobody can do it. Because then I don't have to make any judgment calls, it's never on me as the employee, just nobody can do it. Whereas if there's all these different scenarios, then I, as the employee, am having to be like, oh God, are they getting another kid in the background? I can't tell. Do I say something? I don't know. Like, that seems much more difficult, even, because either way, if you have to tell people to stop, people will be grouchy. But at least in one way, there's no question about it. You just tell everybody.
And I think what we're imagining is in the policy is that basically there's a geographical boundary, which is the main double doors as you enter the library, like that's where you're entering the space where we're talking about privacy, right? We're talking about the main floor. So you got your hallways, not bathrooms, obviously, but you got your hallways, fine. You want to take a selfie out in the hallway? Take a selfie out in the hallway. We're not saying that's not confidential stuff that's going on in the hallway, the fact that you're in the hallway. So yeah, go ahead. The second you enter the main part of the library, that's the sort of the distinction, and it is the last sort of easily communicated distinction where we're just like, beyond this, no. And then there's a couple little exceptions where if we're doing something out on the green, that becomes like inside of the library and you can't agree to that. So,
What about non-library programs? The art group or
So that is mentioned in here, like if you checked it out for your program, then your own rules apply in that room.
like in that boardroom or in the
Okay,
community
so
room.
they can video but probably they would want, as we do with their advertisement, some kind of disclaimer. Possibly we would want some kind of disclaimer that this was not a library sponsored program in the video itself, so that nobody would think that there's. It's so complicated.
Yeah.
A violation of the policy. If the art association has a reception and they want to do interviews with artists, that the video would say, this video is sponsored by the Bethlehem Art Association and not the Bethlehem Public Library. So that it would be clear. That's up there.
Yeah, we have with community and boardrooms, but only when checked out to individual users on in terms of the room access and use policy. Like When someone requests that room, a study room, or boardroom or the community room, when they request that space and they've checked it out, it's theirs. And they can then record.
Okay, because that's a big part of confusion is that people who have their own programs that are not part of our library.
None of this addresses what the way the library can record, so. This doesn't.
Yeah,
address-
this is not anything
This
about the
is-
library recording at a library event. This is about other people recording. And I think that issue you're talking about has just been an ongoing issue, period, of people not understanding that events that happen in the library are not always anything to do with us.
Yeah.
You know?
I agree that they're saying in terms of this policy, it could be, oh, well, how come the art association could do it and I can't do it here? No, we had a answer.
So I have to say, it's easy, I mean, obviously the cleaner approach is to say no recording. I have reservations about that because not. I understand that that makes the policy significantly more difficult, but I fear that that would dissuade groups that we certainly want in the library from wanting to come, namely teens and tweens who have been spending time, I think, in increased amounts in the library. I think that if our idea of a long range plan is to make the library a third space. If people feel like they cannot use their phones, that is going to dissuade people from coming or from
Do
using
you
the
think
space.
so? Well, I don't know, as a parent of 18 and a tween, and this kind of goes to the Zoom meetings and the main part of the library too. Do we really want, even regardless of this, do we really want people to be having like Zoom or FaceTime chats out loud in the library? Because I feel like we don't. Like, because I guess what's your, what use case do you see here? So like, I have a teen, he comes to the library. Why would he need to be recording anything on his phone in the library? I can see two situations. Maybe he's having a Zoom tutoring session, in which case he should be in a study room. Or he's like FaceTiming with his friends, in which case he should leave the library because he's being disruptive, because he shouldn't be FaceTiming his friends inside the library. Yeah.
People have tutoring outside of those rooms all of the time. So in the first case that you had, or in the Zoom meeting, I didn't see a difference between that and
And
tutor who's
yeah.
sitting at the table tutoring. I will say it's bad. They've given up on the cell phone issue.
What do you mean?
Well, I do Live Nation and I do the classicals, and the rule is you can't use professional equipment. You know, you can't take out your camera to do it, but they had given up on the idea that people can't use their phones. Because even though the performers don't want it, particularly the Live Nation performers want to be in control of their media, there's no way that SPAC sees that they can control people on their phone. So that's the other piece of what you're saying is the enforcement of it. So, you know, initially we were told as an usher that we should be telling people, please put your phone away. And they have just abandoned that completely. But if someone takes out a camera, that's a different story. They can't do anything if there's up to the professional stuff. And I'm just sharing because of what Caroline said about the way people use their phones. And we use our phones.
I do worry. I mean, I'm really torn on this because all those one-offs are so challenging, but you know, the Zoom example, there are plenty of Zoom calls you might sit on that you actually aren't ever going to speak on. Power goes out of your house, which happens frequently here. Like I gotta go somewhere. I would want them to be able to come to the library to use Wi-Fi and take a meeting, because where else there's not a lot of places you're gonna go to do that. That would be acceptable. And you might not be speaking, right? But then that issue still presents itself.
some of the outside things. I was thinking about there's evening on the green, there's a sunset, somebody goes take a picture of the sunset, can't take a picture of the sun, like, and yes, people are gonna be grumpy and they're just gonna be grumpy, but the level I feel like at which somebody would feel unwelcome if you're like, no, you can't take a picture of the sun, you're not even taking a picture of this, but you can't take a picture of the sky right now because that's considered, I just worry that will alienate people. Not because they need to use their phones, but because that'll just be somewhat off-putting of, I wasn't even doing anything, I wasn't even taking a picture of anyone, I was taking a picture of the content, I was just taking a picture of the sky and. I know there would be, yeah, that just feels tough. And that's annoying when you get to those one-offs, but. Those are my concerns that are coming up with this. And I don't have a solution, obviously.
No, I'm not ready to go.
I think the answer is, Sarah, everyone appreciates, I know you put a lot of work into this and worked with the attorney, I spent a lot of time. But as Jeff said, I think this is a little bit stickier than everyone initially thought.
I mean, I'm happy to work on it and make changes. I guess I still just don't feel clear, like, what are those changes? I'm not looking to list out every different instance I can possibly think of, different things
Yeah.
that may happen.
Well, let's, for a path forward at this point, it sounds like we still need to do some thinking on this. I would say before the next meeting, if we can meet with the attorney again and maybe get some broader some bigger buckets. You know, I think to make this a little less granular. And also, Jeff, can you just discuss with key members of the staff or the staff at large, what you think is actually feasible here? What is enforceable?
Yeah, a feeling about what they, because they are the ones that would have to do the enforcement, like, would they prefer something more blanket, or would they prefer something that has more specific situations?
We'll talk about it. I think that's a good way for us to move forward on this because it is. It's got a lot of gray edges.
Yeah. And then I think something to start thinking about also, like in the background, is as we shape toward what are hopefully maybe some bigger buckets here. How the communication of that. So really what a very simple signage would look like.
Gee, if we had a team room, we could say they could only record as a team room. They could record each other.
Well, that was one of the things actually that she recommended was having a space like, want to take a selfie in the library? Here's where it's okay. And like explicitly making a space for them to be like, yes, here.
Right, so like if we, like Gilderland's teen area is enclosed, so if we had something like that, we could be like, if you are in the teen area, you can Zoom and FaceTime to your heart's content. And even put up like a do your selfies here.
Yeah, I mean, well, it would be easy to say that you can do all this stuff in a study room, right?
Yes.
But for the fact that they are glass.
Yes, though we have them okay, and that's why we say that,
Yes.
right? And I understand the walls are glass in there, but it's a stretch for me to go, what confidential inside a glass room, you know, what kind of confidential, I mean, there could be absolutely people in the back. Right? Yes, of course, there could be humans, but it's not gonna be them. Be that big enough book, right? That's the yeah.
It would be far enough away, most likely.
Good fast.
Okay,
Well, it's not
TBD, this is a hard one, guys.
Thank you.
We didn't even get to my hard one. This wasn't supposed to be my hard one.
Well,
It's a trap.
we have a hard one that we already know is hard, so. The meeting policy, right?
So you're gonna talk to the staff and then you will get back to me and we will
Yes.
get back to.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we have any other old business for this? Does anyone have any future business they would like to raise? Do we have any public participation in the room? Seeing none. Do we have any public participation online, Deb? Okay, then would anyone like to make a motion to adjourn?
I so move.
Bill, a second. Katie, all those in favor? The meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.